I'm up for this one.
What?
You know why I'm up?
It's because it's that good?
Because it's fucking hype. It's hype.
It's hype.
Okay. Let me rephrase that. It is good. It's really good. But dude, this is the hypest film I have seen this year. I came out of this film, I was like ready. I was ready for a fight. I'm like, who wants to fight right now? Because I am fucking like, I wanted to do backflips, dude. It was that awesome. Like the action. Okay, hold on. All right. Let me just slow down here. We're talking about Aquaman, which is the new film from James Wan within the DC universe. It's the standalone Aquaman film after Justice League. And one thing I really liked about this film is that it's a standalone Aquaman film. It's not a Justice League 2 prequel. It's not setting up all this other stuff. It is a standalone Aquaman movie. There's one throwaway line about Justice League. Someone was like, "You're the one who defeated Steppenwolf. You deserve to
so it does happen afterwards?
So it does happen afterwards, yes. He's like, "You're the one who defeated Steppenwolf. You should be king." That's the most you get. And that's what I really liked about the film, is that it's standalone, which is what DC should have been doing from the beginning. First of all, that's why they failed right out the gate, is because they tried to jump straight into Avengers. You can't do that, you know? So this film is probably the funnest film I have seen all year. Is it the best film I've seen all year? No. But this film was a fucking roller coaster ride, and I loved every minute of it.
For almost 2.5 hours, is it really entertaining throughout the whole way?
It is entertaining throughout the whole way. I was never bored throughout it. Okay, where do I even start with this? First of all, James Wan, he's one of my favorite directors, especially in the modern times. I think he's one of the best directors to kind of come about in the last 10 years. His style is amazing, and his visual flair for action is turned up to 11 with this film, dude. The action in this film is the best in the DC universe. Straight out the gate. It's so good. It's so good. He always films the action in grand wide shots, and he loves to do that 360 spin. He loves flipping the camera upside down when characters do backflips and shit. It's amazing. You know how that is. Mm-hmm. It was so good. It was so hype, dude. The beginning of this film immediately sets up the fact, oh, this is not the Aquaman you think. You think Aquaman's goofy? Not no more, bitch. They set him up as this badass, dude. When these pirates are trying to hijack the submarine, that scene was my balls exploded, because it was just that cool.
You mean the permission to come aboard scene?
Yes! It was so good. It was so good. All right, now here's the thing, though. Jason Momoa is great as Aquaman, dude. He brings a level of depth and character that was not there in Justice League. In Justice League, he was nothing. He was just a cardboard cutout of a dude, of a bro, going yeah! It was just stupid. Radical, bro! My man! It's just dumb. Here, they actually add depth to the character. And not only that, but Amber Heard, who, first of all, I'm not a huge Amber Heard fan in terms of her acting. She's gorgeous. Yeah. She is primo. But her acting is not great in other things. So I was a little nervous going into this film. Can she bring it? She does. She's a likable, sarcastic, witty...
Sidekick?
No. Well, she's a partner, man. What are you talking about?
Okay.
Yeah, she actually kicks ass in this film. And it was really weird going back online yesterday after I saw the film. And I'm I read it in the comments saying that they went back and saw the scene with them in Justice League. And I went back and watched the film with Mira and Aquaman in Justice League. It's night and day. It's holy crap. The characters themselves, even though it's a very short scene in Justice League, are very different than in Aquaman. They're much more likable in Aquaman. And unlike Justice League, Aquaman, Atlantis, is super colorful. It's bioluminescent and just super, super colorful. The visuals of this film, dude, are really, really good. It is such a fun movie.
That's why Justice League is easily the worst film I think I've seen in the last 2 years.
Dude, Justice League was awful. Justice League was awful.
It was, yeah.
Justice League was
horrendous.
A freaking mess, dude. And it was really, I cannot believe Aquaman came out and it's wow, this is one of the best ones. But I want to give you a disclaimer about this film though. This film is fun. It's an awesome ride. But it's Infinity War or Black Panther is just a super fun ride. So if you're looking for something with a little more depth to it, depth as in like emotional gravitas, you might be disappointed in the film. Because this film is a roller coaster ride. And you're either with it or you're not. A lot of people have been complaining about the CG, that there's too much of it. First of all, how are you going to make this film without that much CG? You have to make it. And the CG never really looks bad. There's a couple like de-aging effects that kind of look a little not that great, but that, you know, what can you do there? But Atlantis looks amazing. There's a scene in Venice, or I'm sorry, not Venice, Sicily. There's a scene in Sicily that I thought was real. I thought that was 100% real. I thought they shot that on location. And then I watched James Wan's behind the scenes, and he's like, no, that was all green screen. And I'm like, what the? That was green screen too? Holy crap, that looked legit real. I think our brains are just hardwired to know that, okay, that's Atlantis. That's obviously fake. So we kind of like have that presupposition where we're like, oh, okay, well, that's fake, so it looks fake. Mm-hmm. You know, but when they're in Sicily, it looks real. You don't even question it. You know, I'm like, and that's what I even said that too after coming home. I'm like, that was the best action scene because it's the most tactile action scene because it's real. There's real things blowing up. But then watch the behind the scenes video. He's like, no, like most of that was green screen. And I'm like, shit, dude, that was impressive. So I don't like it when people diss on CGI because there's a lot of artists who work really hard on it. Uh-huh. You know, those are people who have jobs and who are very underpaid to do a lot of work too. There's even a documentary about it called Life After Pi, about how visual effects artists are really mistreated in the Hollywood system. And those are very talented people. But I digress. Point is, the CGI, yeah, there's a lot of it, but it's great. You're either with this film or you're not. You know what I compare this film to, ironically, because James Wan did do a film in this series? This is like Fast and Furious. It's like a fun film that it's ridiculous, it's over the top intentionally, it's intentionally goofy because this is Aquaman here. Yes. You know? So there's a lot of self-referential jokes and it's intentionally over the top. There's villains who declare loudly, "Oh, I am the king," you know, and stuff like that. But it's fun. It's like, get the stick out of your ass and just enjoy it. This film is an experience film and it is great. Okay? You're either with it or you're not. Oh, another thing I will say. Patrick Wilson is King Orm. Great performance. I wish he was a little more fleshed out. Had a little more motivation. But other than that, it's interesting because there's a secondary villain, Black Manta, who has... You're actually introduced to him as almost the main villain. But then he's sort of reduced to being a secondary villain. And you're kind of engaged in Black Manta's storyline more than Ocean Master's storyline. You know? So it's like, why did they choose this guy to be the secondary villain? But overall, both villains do a good job. Yeah, dude, this film is intentionally goofy and intentionally over the top. And for some people, they may see that and be like, oh, I don't like that. This was dumb. They totally missed the mark here. But I don't think that. I think this was totally intentional. Like, there are scenes that are intentionally over the top and goofy because this is Aquaman here that we're talking about, you know? But now let me get into some of my negatives of the film, though.
Okay.
One of my big negatives of the film is the music. They can't keep a consistent tone throughout the movie. Ooh. The music changes on a dime. The first song you hear in the film is a Sigur Rós song, believe it or not. And I was like, okay. I was like, this is going to be cool. Like, it was a good choice.
I cannot imagine that matching up to anything.
Well, it actually matched up pretty well. It was like a really kind of nice little emotional scene. And I'm like, okay, this is cool. But then it goes into the original score, like the orchestral score. But then in some scenes, there's an 80s synth song. There's 80s synth music. Like synth. And I'm like, that's strange. And then in other scenes, there's like, especially in one scene in particular, this really took me out of it. There's a really goofy, like, Pitbull, like, kind of like Miami, like, Flow Rida type song. And it's used as a transition. And I'm not joking. I saw this today. James Wan did an interview and he was asked about that music choice. And he's like, you know, a lot of people are it's gonna take them out of it. They might think it's a little goofy, but I kind of just threw that in there as a nod to my Fast and Furious roots. And I'm like, okay. I mean, you only did one of those films, so I wouldn't
That's
call
not
it.
Really his.
It's I wouldn't say roots.
What are you gonna throw in a jump scare too while you're at it?
He actually did.
Oh no!
No, but it works though. It works. There's and this is in the trailer, so it's not a spoiler. there's a part in the movie where they have to go to this location called the Trench.
Uh-huh.
And the trench is filled with a bunch of deep sea monsters. And they're very freaky looking, you know, and you saw it in the trailer when they're like diving in, there's like all those like monsters, remember? Like just diving after them and stuff.
A little bit.
Yeah, that scene basically turned into like a horror scene. And you know, but it worked though. It worked.
What the fuck?
It worked though. It worked. That scene worked. It was great. It was a fun movie. Another gripe I have though, dude, there was one scene. It was a very quick scene, so it didn't bother me too much. There was one scene, it was only like a minute and a half, 2 minute scene where they did a flashback of this guy named Teen. He was like a teen Aquaman. Mm. He was Aquaman when he was a teenager. Bro, this guy cannot act for shit, dude. This kid, they chose, like, who's this guy's dad? Because he must own DC or something, because...
That's fucked up.
This boy cannot act, dude. Like, holy crap. Like, there's seems like, does she not love me? And I'm like, ooh. I'm like, that was bad, boy. And it's like, that whole scene in particular is kind of unnecessary, because they're basically just, it's just like an exposition scene explaining stuff that has already been explained. So that whole scene was kind of pointless. But, but I mean, it comes and goes pretty quickly, so... You know, yeah, there's also a lot of exposition in the film which can take you out of it, but dude, this movie is just a non-stop roller coaster ride, and you're either with it or you're not. And I don't have a giant stick up my ass, I don't think, so I was with it. And you know what Chris Stuckman said? Chris Stuckman said, this is a live-action anime. This whole film is a live-action anime. Because it's insane.
Okay.
It is insane.
Alright, so I guess I gotta ask you, Bumblebee or Aquaman?
I knew you were gonna ask that. And in all honesty, sorry David, I know you're listening to this, I might choose Bumblebee. I think Bumblebee was better. For sure. Just because Bumblebee was a little more... was more of a tight narrative.
Sure.
It was very simple. Aquaman's a lot. It is a lot thrown at you. And it's just a lot to take in.
Doesn't seem like too hard of a choice, though.
Well, it kind of was, because I knew you were going to ask the question, so I thought about it yesterday.
Yeah.
Yes, but it took me a while.
Of course you're going to ask that question.
I knew you were going to ask that question. That's why
Because, you know, I gotta choose, like, if I had to choose between one of them to go see, like, I'm like, I got a day, I've seen everything else I want to see, which one am I choosing?
Right.
It's going to be that one. I gotta choose now.
Yeah. I think Bumblebee is probably just a bit better. Because they're different films. I think Bumblebee is more... like a concise film, maybe more tightly. Like I said, the narrative is more tight, and I feel like the drama is there more. Mm-hmm. But if you're just looking for like a fun, good old like romp, Aquaman all the way.
Okay.
Because the action in Aquaman is so good. The action in Aquaman is better than the action in Bumblebee, but I think the narrative elements and story elements are better in Bumblebee.
Well, I think I know which movies I'm gonna go see before the end of the year. Like if I had to prioritize.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't think I need those two. I mean, I think I'd rather go see Creed 2. I think I'd rather go see The Favorite because it seems like it's up my alley.
Yes.
I don't know. Maybe even Wreck-It Ralph too, dude. I hear a lot of good things.
That's what I'm hearing too. I wish I could elaborate more on Aquaman. Oh, by the way, there's only one mid-credit scene, so don't stay for the end.
Okay, that actually is pretty helpful.
And yeah, dude, it's just dope action, dude.
Dope, dude.
I want to see. That's what this film is, dude. This film is like, you know what Bumblebee was like? Bumblebee was like a steak dinner, and then Aquaman was like the awesome ice cream sundae you have as a dessert.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay, I see. Interesting analogy.
Yes. So, both films were great. Aquaman was hype as hell, dude. Aquaman was so good. I gave it 4 out of 5.
4 out of 5. Both 4 out of 5.
Both 4 out of 5.